Hey everyone, tonight we are stepping back into one of the most mysterious and often misunderstood periods of history, the Dark Ages. Not the Rome of emperors and legions, nor yet the high towers of medieval castles, but the long stretch in between, where villages huddled in silence, empires had crumbled, and people lived with more questions than certainties. Imagine empty forums where senators once argued, now filled with weeds pushing through broken stones. Imagine the creak of ox carts rolling over muddy tracks where once great Roman roads stretched unbroken across Europe. Picture timber halls lit by torchlight, smoke curling from low fires and mist drifting through ruined arches as the toll of a distant bell carries through the morning fog. This was life in Dark Age Europe, harsh, fragile, and yet still filled with the small rhythms of survival. Villagers rose with the sun, bent their backs to the furrows, prayed in wooden chapels, and gathered close at night as the wind clawed at the doors. Between famine, plague, faith, and fleeting joy, a new world was slowly being born. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I always find it fascinating to see who's joining us from across the world. Now dim the lights, settle in, and let's drift together into the quiet, uncertain dawn of Dark Age Europe. Part 1. In the Shadow of Rome. The Silent Forum. Let us drift back now, not on a tide of shouting armies or triumphant marches, but on the quiet, slow current of forgetting. We travel to a time when a great world was not ending in a single fiery crash, but was slowly, quietly coming undone. Our destination is the very heart of that world, or rather, the ghost of that heart, the Roman Forum. But the Forum we find is not the one from the history books. There are no senators in their white togas, locked in fierce debate. There are no crowds pressing in to hear a great orator, no clatter of chariot wheels on the paved stones, no merchants hawking their wares under the awnings of the basilicas. All of that is gone. The noise has bled out of this place over generations, leaving behind a silence so deep it feels like a physical presence. We arrive on a cool, grey morning. A low mist clings to the ground, softening the edges of the great broken things that remain. The air is damp and smells of wet earth, of cold stone, and of the slow, patient decay of fallen leaves. The sky above is a uniform pearly grey, a blank canvas that offers no warmth, only a dim and even light. This was once the centre of the known world, a vast open plaza paved with massive, expertly fitted stones. It was a place of power, law, and commerce, a vibrant, chaotic, and magnificent stage for the drama of an empire. It is quiet now. The great paving stones are still here, but they are no longer a perfect, unbroken surface. They are tilted and uneven, pushed apart by the slow, immense pressure of the earth beneath them. In the cracks between them, a new life has taken hold. Thin blades of grass, startlingly green against the grey stone, push their way toward the light. Patches of soft, velvety moss have spread across the faces of the stones, blurring their sharp edges. In the low places where the slabs have sunk, shallow pools of rainwater from the last shower reflect the empty sky. Stand here, in the middle of this silence, and look around. The grand buildings that once lined this plaza are now magnificent ruins. There, the Curia, the Senate House of Rome. Its brick walls still stand, a sombre, reddish-brown against the grey mist, but its great bronze doors are long gone, and its marble facing has been stripped away over the years, repurposed for some other, lesser building. Where the world's most powerful men once decided the fate of millions, There is now only a hollow, echoing space. The wind, the only senator left, sighs through the empty window openings, holding a long, low debate with itself. And there, the rostra, the speaker's platform, adorned with the prows of captured warships. From this very spot, Cicero delivered his orations, his voice ringing across the crowded square. Now its marble steps are chipped and stained. A small, tenacious fig tree has taken root in a crack at its base, its leaves rustling in the breeze. No one speaks from here anymore. No one listens. The silence is the only proclamation. We walk slowly, our footsteps making no sound on the soft earth that has begun to cover the stones. We pass the ruins of the Temple of Vesta, where the eternal flame of Rome was once tended by consecrated virgins. The hearth is cold. It has been cold for centuries. The circular foundation is now just a ring of broken stones, a place where lizards sun themselves on the rare days when the sun is strong. The goddess is gone, the flame is out, and the vow of permanence has been broken by the simple, steady passage of time. Great, triumphal arches still stand, like skeletal gateways to a forgotten past. The Arch of Titus, the Arch of Septimius Severus. Their carvings, which once so proudly depicted conquered peoples and cartloads of treasure, are now softened and eroded by centuries of wind and rain. The faces of the captives are blurred, their agony made abstract. The proud Roman soldiers have lost their sharp edges, their features worn smooth. The arches no longer celebrate victory. They are monuments to impermanence, framing not a triumphant procession but a view of weeds, rubble, and the slow, quiet reclamation by nature. Statues of emperors and gods lie toppled, half buried in the earth. Here is the torso of a Caesar, its muscular form still powerful, but its head and arms are missing. It lies on its side like a fallen giant. Over there, the serene face of a goddess stares up at the blank sky from the grass, a trail of ivy creeping across her stone cheek like a green tear. These were once objects of reverence, of fear, of civic pride. Now they are merely obstacles, convenient stones for a goat herd to sit upon while he watches his small flock tear at the grass growing where a temple floor used to be. The silence is broken, but not by human voices. There is the gentle bleating of the goats, the scuttling of some small creature in the undergrowth that has claimed the Basilica Aemilia, the coo of a pigeon that has made its nest in the eye socket of a colossal statue. These are the new residents of the Forum, and they are utterly unimpressed by the grandeur around them. To them, this is not the ruin of an empire. It is a pasture. It is a shelter. It is simply home. This vast emptiness is the legacy of a slow unraveling. There was no single day the Forum fell. It simply became less important. The aqueducts that supplied its grand fountains began to fail, one by one. The great sewer, the Cloaca Maxima, became clogged. The ruling classes moved away to new capitals or to fortified country estates. The population of the city dwindled. The people who remained were poorer, their concerns more immediate. They needed stone for their walls, and here was a quarry of pre-cut marble. They needed space to graze their animals, and here was a field conveniently located. The idea of Rome, the grand, central, organizing principle of the world, did not vanish overnight. It just faded. The power was no longer here, in this monumental center. It had dispersed, flowing outward into 100, 1,000 different places, to the timber hall of a local warlord, to the stone monastery on a lonely hill. The world had become smaller, more local, and infinitely more fragmented, and so the Forum was left to its long, slow sleep. It became a place of memory, and then a place where even the memories grew faint. It was called, for a time, the Campo Vaccino, the cow field, a name that is both a deep insult and a simple, honest description of what it had become. Let the image of this silent place fill your mind. The grey mist, the green weeds, the cold, broken stones, feel the profound quietness that has settled here. This is not the silence of a library or a church. It is the silence of an abandoned world. There is nothing to do here, nothing to fix. There is only the slow, steady breath of time erasing the proudest works of man. Let that deep, ancient peace soothe you, a quiet lullaby of endings and of the long, silent pause that comes before a new beginning. Allow yourself to drift into that stillness, into that quiet fog, into a deep and profound sleep. The abandoned roads. Let us now move away from the heart of the dead empire and travel along its arteries. We find ourselves on one of the great Roman roads, a famous via that once stitched the provinces together, a testament to order, engineering, and control. These roads were the physical manifestation of Roman power, built for the swift march of legions, the reliable passage of imperial messengers, and the steady flow of trade that fed the cities. They were built to last forever. But forever is a very long time. The road we walk upon now is not a proud, clean artery. It is a broken vein, a ghost of a path. The engineers who designed it with such precision are long dead, and the knowledge of their craft has become a half-remembered legend. The legions who maintained its surface and guarded its milestones are gone. No one comes to fix the broken stones anymore. The road is still impressively straight. It cuts a direct line through the dense, tangled forest, ignoring the gentle contours of the land in a display of old, forgotten confidence. But its surface is a ruin. The great, flat paving stones, once so perfectly fitted together, are now a chaotic jumble. Many are missing, pried up by local people to build the foundation of a church or the wall of a pigsty. Those that remain are cracked and shattered, their surfaces worn smooth in some places and pitted in others. Tree roots have pushed their way up from beneath, heaving the massive slabs into awkward, impassable angles. Winter frosts have widened every crack, and spring rains have washed away the gravel bed that once supported them. Walking on the road itself is difficult, even treacherous. It is easier and safer to walk on the narrow dirt track that has formed alongside it, worn into the earth by the slow, shuffling feet of generations of travellers who have chosen the soft ground over the broken stones. This is the new road, a humble, winding path that follows the shadow of the old. We follow this path, the silence of the forest, pressing in on either side. The trees are old and thick, their branches interlocking overhead to form a dense canopy that blots out much of the sky. The light that filters through is green and dim, as if we are underwater. The air is still and smells of damp soil, rotting leaves, and the sharp, clean scent of pine. The only sounds are the rustle of our own movement, the distant call of a bird, and the whisper of the wind in the high branches. This road was once a place of constant motion. Imagine the sound it once knew, the rhythmic tramp of sandals on stone as a century of legionaries marched past, their armour gleaming, the clatter and rumble of a merchant's heavy wagon laden with wine from Gaul or pottery from Spain, the frantic hoofbeats of a messenger of the cursus publicus, the imperial postal service changing to a fresh horse at a staging post every few miles, carrying news and orders with incredible speed. The staging posts are ruins now. We pass one, a low tumble of moss-covered walls, barely visible in the undergrowth. This was once a place with stables, a bathhouse, a blacksmith. Now it is a den for foxes, a place for ivy to climb. The speed and efficiency it represented are gone. A message that once took days to cross a province now takes weeks if it arrives at all, carried by a lone traveller on foot, hoping to avoid trouble. And trouble is a constant companion on these old roads. The imperial patrols are a distant memory. The forest has become a place of shadows and fear. A fallen tree across the road is not just an obstacle, it is a perfect spot for an ambush. Travellers move in small, anxious groups if they can. A lone merchant with his mule, carrying a precious cargo of salt or iron tools, keeps his eyes fixed on the trees, his hand never far from the knife at his belt. He does not travel at night. As dusk begins to fall, he will seek out a clearing far from the road to make a small, smokeless fire, and will spend the night listening to every twig that snaps in the darkness. The grand Roman bridges that once spanned the rivers are often the most dangerous points of all. We come to one, an elegant stone arch that is still miraculously standing, but its centre has collapsed, leaving a gaping hole. A makeshift bridge of rough-hewn logs has been laid across the gap by local villagers. It is narrow, slippery with moss, and sways alarmingly with every step. To cross it with a pack animal is a terrifying prospect. Many travellers would rather risk fording the river downstream, even with its strong current, than trust the rotting logs. Other bridges are gone completely, their stone abutments standing on either side of the river like mourners, with no memory of the arch that once connected them. The world has shrunk. The vast interconnected network that these roads created has fractured into 1,000 tiny, isolated pieces. A person living in a small village might be born, live their entire life, and die without ever travelling more than 10 miles from their home. The road that runs past their village is not a path to a vibrant, distant city. It is a place of danger, a route by which strangers, raiders, refugees, or just hungry men might arrive. It is a source of anxiety, not opportunity. As we stand on this broken road, in the deep silence of the ancient woods, we can feel the immensity of what has been lost. Not just the stones and the bridges, but the idea behind them. The idea of a single, ordered world, connected and maintained by a central power. That idea has crumbled, just like the pavement beneath our feet. The world is now a place of short journeys, of local concerns, of deep suspicion of the world beyond the next valley. Let the image of this quiet, overgrown path settle in your mind, a straight line drawn by an empire, now being slowly erased by the forest. It is a symbol of a world contracting, of connections being severed. There is a deep, melancholic peace in this image. The frantic motion of the past has given way to the slow, patient stillness of nature. Let that stillness calm your thoughts, and let the quiet, winding dirt path lead you gently toward a place of rest. The village's dawn. The sun has not yet risen, but a faint, watery greyness is beginning to dilute the deep black of the night sky. In the river valley, a thick white mist lies like a soft blanket, muffling all sound and obscuring the world. From within this mist a new sound emerges, the first signal of the coming day. It is the loud, confident crow of a rooster, sharp and clear in the cold air. Another answers from a short distance away, and then another, until a ragged chorus fills the valley. This is the world's alarm clock. This is the dawn of a new day in a dark age village. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the village begins to stir. It is not a city, not even a town. It is a small, tight cluster of huts, perhaps a dozen or so, huddled together on a slight rise of land above the river. There are no straight streets, no grand squares. The huts are arranged in a seemingly random pattern, connected by muddy tracks worn into the earth by the passage of feet and hooves. The entire settlement is encircled by a low, rough-hewn wooden palisade and a shallow ditch a flimsy but necessary defense against the dangers of the forest and the threats of a lawless world. From the smoke hole in the roof of one of the huts, a thin grey plume of smoke begins to rise. It hangs for a moment in the still, damp air before dissolving into the mist. Soon, another plume joins it, and then another. These are the signs of life, the first stirrings of the hearths within, where the embers have been carefully preserved overnight and are now being coaxed back to life. Let us step inside one of these dwellings. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke, of sleeping bodies, of damp earth, and of the animals that often shared the space for warmth and safety. The hut is a simple one-room structure, built with a timber frame and walls made of wattle and daub. A lattice of woven branches packed with a mixture of wet soil, clay, and straw. The roof is a thick layer of thatch, home to spiders and mice. There is no window, only a single low doorway covered by a piece of hide or a rough blanket to keep out the wind. The only light comes from the small, flickering fire in the central hearth, a shallow pit in the earthen floor. By its dim orange glow, a family is beginning to move. They sleep not in separate beds, but together on a raised platform covered with straw-filled sacks and animal pelts for warmth. Their clothing is simple and coarse. A man pulls on a tunic of undyed wool and rough linen trousers. A woman ties a belt around her long woolen dress. Their movements are slow, stiff from the cold and the hard sleeping surface. There is little talk. The morning is a time for quiet, necessary tasks. The woman takes a wooden bucket and heads out into the misty dawn, her bare feet sinking slightly into the cold mud of the path. She walks to the communal well, or perhaps down to the river, her breath pluming in the air. The sound of the bucket being lowered, the splash of water, and the creak of the rope are the only sounds in the immediate stillness. She returns, the heavy bucket sloshing, and pours water into a large clay pot that she hangs over the fire from a hook. This will be slowly heated to make a thin, warm porridge of oats or barley, the morning's simple meal. The man, meanwhile, checks on the animals. A few chickens might be roosting in the rafters. A pig and its piglets might be grunting in a small pen at one end of the hut. If the family is fortunate, they might own an ox, their most valuable possession, which would be sheltered in an adjoining lean-to. He gives them a little fodder, his hands moving with the slow, practiced efficiency of a lifetime of these same chores. As the light outside grows stronger, the mist begins to thin, revealing the world beyond the hut. The village is a place of earth tones, the brown of the mud, the grey of the weathered wood, the muted yellow of the thatch. There are no bright colours, save for the green of the moss growing on the north side of the roofs. The other villagers are emerging now, their forms materializing from the fog like ghosts. A man with an axe over his shoulder heads toward the woods. A group of children, already barefoot and dirty, begin a quiet game, throwing stones at a target. This small, self-contained world is the center of existence for its inhabitants. The people here are all related by blood or by marriage. They know each other's histories, each other's strengths, each other's sorrows. Their survival depends on this tight-knit community. They work together to plough the fields, to harvest the crops, to defend the village if threat should come. But it is a fragile existence, a failed harvest, a disease among the livestock, a raid by a band of desperate men. Any of these could spell disaster for the entire community. The world beyond the village palisade and the surrounding fields is a place of mystery and danger. The deep forest is believed to be home to ancient spirit, and the abandoned Roman ruins that dot the landscape are thought to be the work of giants, haunted places to be avoided. As the sun finally breaks through the last of the mist, its pale, watery light illuminates the scene. The smoke from the hearths rises straight into the cool air. the lowing of an ox, the bleating of a sheep, the cry of a child. These are the sounds that have replaced the clamor of the Roman city. This is the new reality. Life has become smaller, quieter, and more precarious. It is a life lived in a small circle of light, surrounded by a vast and uncertain darkness. Let this image of the village at dawn settle into your mind. The rising smoke, the soft mist, the quiet, purposeful movements of people beginning their day. There is no grand drama here, only the simple, repetitive, and deeply human rhythm of survival. Let the peace of this small, sleeping world calm your own. The day is just beginning, and its demands are simple and clear. Let that simplicity bring you rest. The farmer's furrow. Let us leave the huddled warmth of the village huts and walk out into the open fields as the morning sun climbs higher in the sky. The air is still cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and the faint, sweet smell of last year's decaying stubble. The fields stretch out from the village in a patchwork of rough, uneven rectangles, cleared from the surrounding forest and marshland over generations of hard labor. This is the ager, the cultivated land, and it is the only thing that stands between the village and starvation. Here we find a man and his son, or perhaps two brothers, beginning the most crucial work of the year, the spring ploughing. There are no great machines here, no teams of powerful horses. The plough they use is a simple, almost primitive tool, a heavy wooden beam with an iron tip, or share, at its point. It is a light plough, an ard, designed not to turn the soil over in a deep furrow, but simply to scratch a shallow groove into the heavy clay-like earth. It is an ancient design, one that would have been familiar to their distant ancestors. Harnessed to the front of this plough is a pair of oxen. They are not swift, but they are immensely strong and patient, their broad, placid faces framed by long, curved horns. Their breath steams in the cool morning air as they stand, waiting for the command to move. They are the most valuable asset a farmer can own, the living engines that make this work possible. To lose an ox to disease or injury would be a catastrophe. The farmer stands behind the plough, his hands gripping the two handles that rise from the back of the beam. He is not an old man, but his body is shaped by a lifetime of this work. His back is permanently stooped, his shoulders broad and powerful, his hands, resting on the smooth, worn wood of the plough handles, are gnarled and calloused, the skin thick as leather, with dirt worked deep into every line. His face is weathered, tanned by the sun and wind, his eyes narrowed as he squints at the land before him. He clicks his tongue and utters a low, guttural command. The oxen lean into their wooden yoke, their immense muscles bunching. The plough lurches forward, and the iron share bites into the earth. The sound is a low, grating, tearing noise, the sound of the world being opened up for a new season of life. The farmer throws his full weight onto the plough handles, wrestling with the tool to keep the furrows straight. It is a constant, physical struggle. The plough bucks and swerves as it hits a hidden rock or a thick knot of roots. The farmer's arms and back strain to keep it on course. Walking alongside the oxen is the boy. His job is to guide the team, to keep them moving at a slow, steady pace, and to clear any large stones or roots from their path. He carries a long, thin stick, a goad, which he uses to gently tap the animal's flanks to urge them on. He does not speak much, but communicates with the oxen through a series of quiet clicks and calls that they seem to understand. The man and the boy and the animals work together as a single unit, a slow, patient machine of wood, iron, and flesh, moving in a rhythm that has been passed down for 1,000 years. They move back and forth across the narrow strip of land, scratching one shallow furrow after another. The newly turned earth is a rich, dark brown, a stark contrast to the pale, dead grass of the surrounding field. It smells clean and alive. A flock of small birds follows in their wake, swooping down to pluck worms and grubs from the freshly disturbed soil. This is brutally hard work. From sunrise to sunset, the farmer will walk behind his plough, his body aching, his mind focused on the simple, repetitive task. There is no room for distraction. A moment's inattention could cause the furrow to wander, wasting precious land, or worse, could cause the ploughshare to strike a large rock and shatter, a disaster that could take days or weeks to repair. His eyes are not just on the ground. He is constantly looking at the sky, reading the clouds, sniffing the wind for the scent of rain. The weather is his master. Too little rain and the seeds he will soon sow will wither in the ground. Too much rain and they will rot. An unseasonable frost could kill the young shoots. A hailstorm could flatten a mature crop in minutes. His entire year's work, the survival of his family, is a gamble against the whims of nature. He does not understand the science of meteorology. He understands it as the mood of God or of the older, half-forgotten spirits of the land. He might have left a small offering at the base of an ancient oak tree at the edge of the field, a quiet plea for a favorable season. The land itself is not his own. In the shadow of the fallen empire, the old system of small independent farms has largely vanished. This field, and all the fields around it, belong to the local lord, the man in the timber hall on the hill. In exchange for the right to work this land and keep a portion of the harvest for his family, the farmer owes the lord service. He must spend several days a week working the lord's own fields, the domain. He must give the lord a portion of his own grain, a share of his chicken's eggs, a pot of the honey from his bees. He is not a slave, but he is not a free man. He is bound to this land, this furrow, by a web of obligation and tradition that he cannot escape. As the sun reaches its peak, the farmer and his son stop. The oxen stand, their heads bowed, their flanks heaving. The woman from the village arrives, walking along the edge of the field, carrying their midday meal. It is not a feast. It is a chunk of coarse, dark bread, a piece of hard cheese, and a water skin filled with thin, sour ale. They sit on the ground, in the shadow of a lone tree, and eat in silence, their backs against the warm bark. For a few moments, there is only the sound of chewing, the buzzing of a fly, the quiet sigh of the wind. This is the life that underpins everything. Before the lords and their halls, before the monks and their prayers, there is this: a man, a plough, and a furrow. It is the fundamental reality of this age, the wealth of the powerful, the survival of the village, the very possibility of the future, is all drawn from the thin layer of topsoil that is being so painstakingly scratched open, season after season, by these calloused hands. Let your mind rest on this simple, powerful image: a man and his oxen moving slowly across a vast, empty field under a wide, silent sky. Feel the rhythmic strain of the work, the deep connection to the earth, the patient, enduring hope of the ploughman. This is a world stripped down to its essentials: soil, sun, rain, and the unending labor required to draw life from the ground. Let the slow, steady pace of the ploughman's walk set the rhythm for your own quiet thoughts. A peaceful, repetitive motion that leads you gently towards sleep. Part 2. The Hard Struggle of Survival. The daily bread. Let us follow the farmer back from the field at dusk, his body weary from the long day's labor. He returns not to a feast, but to a meal that is a testament to the core struggle of his existence. The simple, unending effort to have enough to eat. We enter his smoky hut once more and turn our attention to the food, that sustains his world. This is the story of the daily bread and the meagre fare that accompanies it. The centerpiece of every meal, the very definition of food, is bread. But this is not the light, airy loaf we might imagine. The bread of this age is a heavy, dense, and often gritty thing. The finest, whitest bread made from wheat is a rare luxury, reserved for the lord of the manor or for the altar of the church on feast days. For the farmer and his family, bread is made from coarser grains, barley, oats, rye, or a mixture of whatever is available, known as maslin. Imagine the woman of the house preparing it. The grain has been ground by hand, a back-breaking task performed with a quern, two heavy circular stones, one turned atop the other. The process is slow and inefficient, and tiny chips of stone from the quern often end up in the flour, making the resulting bread gritty to the teeth. The flour is dark and coarse. She mixes it with water and a little bit of sourdough starter, a living piece of dough saved from the previous day's baking. There is no sugar, and salt is a precious commodity, used sparingly. She kneads the heavy dough on a rough wooden board, her arms strong from the daily repetition of the task. The loaf she forms is not a neat, rectangular shape, but a round, flattish disc. It is not baked in a private oven, few huts would have one. Instead, it might be baked directly in the hot ashes of the hearth on a hot, flat stone placed by the fire, or in some villages in a communal oven that the entire community shares, for which they must pay a portion of their flour to the lord as a fee. The resulting loaf is dark, almost black on the outside, with a dense, chewy, and slightly sour crumb. It is not a delicacy, it is fuel. It is the food that provides the raw energy for a day of hard labor in the fields. A large part of the family's daily caloric intake comes from this single source. At the evening meal, the man of the house will take the loaf and, with a simple knife, cut thick, heavy slices for everyone. What accompanies this bread? The meal is a simple affair, often a one-pot pottage, a thick stew that has been simmering over the hearth all day. It is the original slow cooking. Into the pot goes whatever is on hand. The base is usually water or thin ale and some kind of grain, barley or oats, to thicken it. To this is added a handful of vegetables from the small garden patch behind the hut, tough-leafed cabbage, onions, leeks, turnips, and peas or beans that have been dried for storage through the winter. Wild herbs, gathered from the verges of the forest, might be added for flavor: nettle, wild garlic, dandelion greens. Meat is a rarity. The oxen are too valuable for their labor to be slaughtered. A cow is prized for her milk. The family's pig is their main source of meat, but it will be carefully butchered in the autumn, and most of its meat will be heavily salted or smoked to preserve it through the long, lean months of winter. A small piece of this salted bacon or pork might be added to the pottage, its salty flavor infusing the entire stew. On a lucky day, the man or his son might have trapped a rabbit or a few small birds, which would be a welcome addition. But for the most part, the pottage is a meatless vegetable and grain affair. The family gathers around the fire to eat. There is no large table. They sit on low stools or on the floor, holding their wooden bowls in their laps. They do not have individual plates or a variety of utensils. They have a bowl, a wooden spoon, and their knife. The thick slices of bread serve as a plate and a tool used to scoop up the thick pottage and to wipe the bowl clean at the end of the meal. No drop of food is wasted. To drink there is water, of course, but it is often of questionable purity. The most common drink for everyone, including children, is ale. This is not the strong, hoppy beer of later ages. It is a small ale, thin, cloudy, and low in alcohol, brewed at home by the woman of the house from fermented barley. It is nutritious, providing extra calories, and the brewing process makes it safer to drink than water from a potentially contaminated stream. Dairy products are a vital part of the diet. If the family owns a cow or a few goats, there will be milk, though it will not keep for long. Much of it is turned into hard, sharp-tasting cheese or soured butter, which can be stored for longer periods. This cheese, hard and dry, is a perfect portable food for the farmer to take to the fields. The flavors of this diet are earthy, simple and monotonous. Sour, salty and bitter are the dominant tastes. Sweetness is a rare treat, coming only from a spoonful of honey from the village hives, or from wild berries gathered in the summer. The diet is repetitive, changing only with the slow turn of the seasons. What is fresh in the summer must be dried, salted, or pickled to last through the winter. This is the food of survival. It is not about pleasure, but about sustenance. Every mouthful is the product of immense effort. The bread from the grain he planted, the cabbage from the garden she tended, the cheese from the milk of the animal they both care for. There is a deep, quiet connection between the people and the food they eat. It is a connection born of necessity, of hardship, and of the simple, profound satisfaction of having enough to ward off hunger for one more day. Let your mind rest on this simple meal. The glow of the hearth, the steam rising from the wooden bowls, the sound of bread being torn. There is a deep, grounding peace in this simplicity. It is a world without endless choices, a world where the value of a single loaf of bread is understood with every bite. Let the warmth of the hearth and the quiet satisfaction of a full belly bring a sense of profound calm and security to you now, as you prepare for your own rest. Winter's hunger. The sun of late autumn hangs low in the sky, its light thin and pale. The last of the harvest has been brought in from the fields, and the village is making its final preparations for the great enemy, winter. Winter in this age is not a time of cozy holidays and cheerful snowfalls. It is a long, dark and hungry season, a time of deep anxiety, a test of survival that must be passed every year. It is the season of the empty granary, the time of winter's hunger. The year's rhythm is defined by this reality. The frantic work of the harvest is driven by the knowledge that every grain, every vegetable, every scrap of food brought in is a bulwark against the coming cold and dark. In the farmer's hut, the results of this labor are now stored away. Smoked hams and sides of bacon hang from the rafters, coated in a dark, salty crust. Sacks of grain, barley, oats and rye are stacked in the driest corner, away from the damp earth floor. Strings of dried onions and garlic hang from a peg. In a clay pot, vegetables like cabbage are being preserved through fermentation, turning into a sour, pungent kraut. In another, apples or berries have been crushed and left to ferment into a rough cider. These are the family's entire worldly wealth, the sum of their hopes for the next 6 months. From the moment the first hard frost kills the last of the garden greens, they will be living on these stores, and every day the pile will get a little smaller. The first few months of winter are not so bad. There is still a sense of plenty from the harvest. But as the days grow shorter and the nights grow brutally long and cold, a quiet anxiety begins to creep in. The man of the house begins to measure the grain more carefully. The woman cuts thinner slices from the salted ham. The children are told not to ask for more. The family eats their 2 simple meals a day in the smoky dimness of the hut, the wind howling outside, and everyone is aware of the dwindling supplies. The world outside shrinks to the size of the village. The muddy tracks become frozen and impassable, often blocked by deep snowdrifts. The forest, once a source of firewood and foraged food, becomes a menacing, silent world of white. Travel between villages ceases. The community is thrown entirely upon its own resources, an isolated island in a sea of snow. The greatest fear is that the food will not last until the first shoots of spring. This period, in the late winter and early spring, is known as the hungry gap. The winter stores are at their lowest, but nothing new has yet begun to grow. This is the time when the real hardship begins. The sacks of grain are nearly empty. The last of the smoked meat has been eaten. The family is reduced to scraping the bottom of the barrel. The daily pottage becomes thinner, more watery, made with a handful of dried peas and perhaps some tree bark, ground into a coarse flour to add bulk. The bread is made with a mixture of oats and crushed acorns, a bitter but necessary substitute for real grain. Hunger becomes a constant, dull ache in the belly. The cold seems to seep deeper into the bones, with not enough food to fuel the body's inner furnace. The lack of nutrition brings on a host of other problems. Scurvy, from the lack of fresh vegetables, makes the gums bleed and the joints ache. The immune system weakens, making everyone more susceptible to the coughs and fevers that sweep through the village. The old and the very young are the most vulnerable. For them, a long winter can be a death sentence. The animals suffer too. The stored fodder runs low. The oxen and the cow grow thin, their ribs showing. If the winter is too long, the farmer might be faced with a terrible choice. Slaughter a valuable animal for its meat, or risk it starving to death before the spring grass returns. In these desperate times, the community must band together. A family that has managed its stores well might share a little with a neighbor who is worse off. But if the whole village is starving, this social fabric can begin to tear. Food is hoarded. Suspicion grows. A stolen handful of grain can lead to a violent feud. The people pray. They pray to God, they pray to the saints, they might even whisper a prayer to an older pagan spirit of the spring, begging for the winter to break. They watch the sky every day for a sign, a slightly warmer wind, the first flock of returning birds, the sound of dripping water as the icicles begin to melt. These small signs of the coming thaw are greeted with a desperate, exhausted joy. And then one day, it happens. A green shoot pushes its way up through the cold, muddy earth in the garden patch. The first wild garlic or nettles can be gathered from the edge of the woods. It is not much, but it is a promise. It is the end of the long siege. The hungry gap has been crossed. Let your mind settle into the deep quiet of a winter's night in this small, cold hut. See the low glow of the embers in the hearth. Feel the profound cold that seeps through the wattle and daub walls. Hear the lonely sound of the wind and feel the deep, gnawing anxiety of the dwindling food supply. There is a profound stillness in this state of waiting, a quiet endurance that is almost a form of hibernation. It is the world holding its breath, waiting for the return of the sun, for the return of life. Let this sense of deep, patient waiting bring a profound calm to your own mind, a feeling of being sheltered and warm, safe from the long, dark winter outside, the dangerous road. Let us leave the sleeping village once more and venture back out onto the roads that crisscross the land. We have seen how the great Roman highways have fallen into decay, but this does not mean that no one travels. Trade has not vanished entirely, but it has become a much smaller, slower, and more perilous affair. This is the world of the itinerant merchant, the peddler, the pilgrim, brave or desperate souls who dare to face the dangers of the open road. Imagine a small group of men walking along a muddy track that winds through a dense, dark forest. They are not warriors, but they are armed. Each man carries a heavy staff, and a long knife is tucked into his belt. They walk in a tight bunch, their eyes constantly scanning the shadows between the trees. They speak in low voices, and a nervous energy hangs over them. This is a merchant caravan in the Dark Ages. Their cargo is not exotic silks or spices from the Far East. The great trade routes of the ancient world are shattered. The goods they carry are more mundane, but no less vital. On the back of a sturdy pack mule, carefully wrapped in oilcloth, are sacks of salt. Salt is a precious, essential commodity. It is the only reliable way to preserve meat, a vital part of surviving the winter. But salt is not found everywhere. It comes from distant coastal salt pans or from deep underground mines, and its trade is one of the few constants in this fragmented world. Another mule might carry bolts of rough, undyed woolen cloth woven in a village that specializes in raising sheep. Or perhaps it carries a few carefully packed iron goods, plowshares, axe heads, knives, forged by a skilled blacksmith whose work is known for miles around. These are the goods that a village cannot produce for itself, the sinews of a fragile, localized economy. The journey is agonizingly slow. The pack animals can only move at a walking pace, and the poor state of the tracks means they can only cover 10 or 15 miles on a good day. A journey that would take a few days in the Roman era now takes weeks. The merchants must be their own guides, navigating by the position of the sun, by the flow of rivers, and by a deep, learned knowledge of the landscape. The greatest danger is not the terrain, but other people. In a world without a strong central authority, with no police force or army to maintain order, the roads are the hunting ground of robbers. These are not romantic outlaws. They are desperate men, outcasts, failed farmers, former soldiers with no lord to serve, who have been pushed to the margins of society. They prey on anyone who seems weaker than themselves. A lone traveler is an easy target. That is why these merchants band together, finding safety in numbers. Every stranger they meet on the path is a potential threat. A group of men coming the other way is scrutinized with deep suspicion. Is it another merchant party? Or a band of robbers? A tense, silent moment passes as the two groups approach each other, hands on their weapons, until they are close enough to see each other's faces and intentions. A sigh of relief is shared as they pass, with a curt nod, but no friendly conversation. Trust is a scarce commodity. The landscape itself is full of dangers. A flooded river can halt their progress for days. A narrow pass through the hills is a perfect place for an ambush. The deep woods are a place of profound fear, not just of robbers, but of wolves or a stray bear. At night, the caravan makes a small, defensible camp. They build a large fire, not just for warmth, but to keep the wild animals at bay. The mules are tethered in the center of the camp, and the men take turns standing watch, a spear in hand, peering into the impenetrable darkness beyond the ring of firelight, listening for any unnatural sound. They do not sleep in inns. The grand Roman mancios are long gone. In this era, an inn, if one can be found at all, is often a squalid, dangerous place, a haunt for thieves and cutthroats. It is safer to sleep in the open, under the stars, relying on their own strength and vigilance. If the merchants successfully reach their destination, another village, a monastery, or the timber hall of a local lord, they will be greeted with a mixture of excitement and suspicion. Their arrival is a major event. They bring not only vital goods, but also news from the outside world. How is the harvest in the next valley? Are there rumors of plague? Has a new king or warlord risen to power? In this isolated world, the merchants are the only source of information. They will trade their salt, cloth, or iron for the village's surplus, sacks of grain, barrels of ale, hides, or, if they are lucky, a few small silver coins. The bartering is a long, careful process. Then, with their new goods loaded onto their mules, they will begin the long, dangerous journey home, their profits earned not just through commerce, but through their own courage and endurance. Let your mind travel with this small, brave band of men. Feel the mud sucking at your boots. the weight of your pack, the constant, low-level fear that sharpens your senses. See the deep, dark woods, the flickering light of the campfire, the suspicious eyes of a stranger on the road. This is the slow, fragile pulse of a world trying to stay connected. There is a quiet heroism in this mundane journey, a testament to the human need to trade, to connect, to venture out beyond the safety of the village walls. Let the slow, steady rhythm of their walking, the creak of the leather packs, the soft footfalls on the dirt path, be a peaceful, lulling sound that guides you toward rest. The healer's herbs. In the smoky dimness of the village hut, a child lies on a straw pallet, tossing with fever. The child's breathing is shallow and rapid, and a sheen of sweat covers a pale forehead. The mother sits beside the pallet, her face etched with worry, dipping a cloth in cool water and placing it on her child's brow. In an age before doctors, before hospitals, before any understanding of germs or viruses, sickness is a terrifying and mysterious visitor. It is seen as an imbalance of the body's humors, a punishment from God, or the work of a malevolent spirit. And the first line of defense against it is not a physician, but the village healer. This healer is often an older woman, a widow perhaps, who lives on the edge of the village. She is not a witch in the later, sinister sense of the word, but she is a figure of both respect and a little fear. She is the keeper of the old knowledge, the lore of herbs and charms that has been passed down from mother to daughter for countless generations. She is the one who knows which plants can soothe a cough, which can stop bleeding, and which can ease the pain of childbirth. Let us follow the child's mother as she hurries to this woman's hut. The healer's home is small and cluttered, and it smells intensely of dried plants, of wood smoke, and of earthy, medicinal aromas. Bunches of herbs hang from the rafters, rustling in the draughts. Sage, yarrow, thyme, plantain, comfrey. On a low shelf there are clay pots filled with salves and ointments, and wooden bowls containing powdered roots and leaves. The mother describes the child's symptoms in a hushed, fearful voice. The healer listens intently, her eyes clouded with age, showing deep concentration. She may ask questions about what the child has eaten, or if the family might have offended a local spirit or saint. Her understanding of illness is a complex mixture of practical observation and deep-seated superstition. After listening, she begins to prepare a remedy. She takes down a bunch of dried yarrow, known for its ability to induce sweating and break a fever. She crushes the brittle leaves and flowers in a stone mortar, her movements slow and deliberate. To this, she might add some elderflower to soothe a cough, and perhaps a little willow bark, which contains a substance that we now know is a natural form of aspirin, to ease the pain. She scrapes the powdered herbs into a small linen bag and gives it to the mother with careful instructions. The herbs are to be steeped in hot water, creating a bitter, fragrant tea that the child must be coaxed to drink. But the treatment is not just physical. The healer believes the power of the herbs is tied to the spiritual world. She instructs the mother to say a specific prayer or charm as she administers the medicine. The words are as important as the herbs themselves. The charm might invoke the name of a Christian saint, or it might contain echoes of a much older, pre-Christian belief calling on the power of the earth or the moon. The two belief systems, the new faith and the old ways, are woven together in her practice. For a wound, the healer's approach would be more direct. She would clean the cut with wine or vinegar, if available. She would then apply a poultice of crushed comfrey leaves, often called knitbone, for its supposed ability to help heal broken bones and wounds. Or she might use the soft, absorbent moss gathered from the forest floor as a natural dressing, its antiseptic properties unknowingly put to good use. She would bind the wound tightly with clean strips of linen. Childbirth is one of the most dangerous times in a woman's life. and the healer acts as the village midwife. She brings her knowledge of herbs that can ease labor pains or stop hemorrhaging, but she also brings her store of charms and rituals meant to protect the mother and child from the evil spirits that were believed to be drawn to the vulnerability of birth. The healer's medicine is a world away from our own. She has no antibiotics, no anesthetics, no understanding of sterile procedure. Many of the illnesses she faces are simply beyond her power to cure. A deep, infected wound, a bout of dysentery, or a virulent plague will often be fatal, regardless of her efforts. Her successes are often due to the body's own ability to heal, with her remedies providing comfort and perhaps a small amount of genuine medicinal benefit. And yet, her role is absolutely vital. She provides something that is just as important as medicine. She provides hope. In a world of fear and uncertainty, she is the one who has a response to sickness. She has an action to take, a ritual to perform, a potion to mix. She gives the family a sense of agency, a feeling that something is being done. Her calm, confident presence is itself a form of healing, a reassurance in the face of terror. Let us return to the sick child's hut. The mother carefully prepares the herbal tea, her lips moving silently as she whispers the charm the healer taught her. She lifts her child's head and helps them to drink the bitter liquid. Then she sits and she waits, watching for any sign of change, her hope resting in that small bundle of dried leaves and in the power of ancient words. Let the image of the healer's quiet, fragrant hut fill your mind. The rows of drying herbs, the gentle rhythm of the mortar and pestle, the low, murmuring voice speaking words of comfort and power. This is a world where medicine is intertwined with magic, where the healing of the body cannot be separated from the soothing of the soul. There is a deep, earthy peace in this ancient knowledge. Let that sense of quiet, natural healing calm your own body and mind, a gentle poultice for the worries of the day, guiding you into a restorative sleep. The raiders' threat. The day is ending. In the village, the people are finishing their evening meal, the smoke from their hearths rising in the twilight. The sounds are soft, familiar ones, the lowing of cattle being settled for the night, the murmur of voices, the cry of a tired child. There is a sense of peace, the quiet satisfaction of a day's work done, and then a sound that shatters the calm. It is the frantic barking of a dog from the edge of the village, a sharp, insistent, and fearful sound. A lookout, posted in a crude wooden watchtower, shouts a single word of alarm. The word spreads through the village like fire, a wave of pure terror. Raiders! In an instant, the peaceful scene is transformed into one of desperate, panicked activity. Doors are barred, children are pulled inside, their cries muffled by a mother's hand. The men of the village grab whatever weapons they have. These are not the swords and shields of trained soldiers. They are the tools of their daily lives. Heavy wood-cutting axes, sharp-tined hay forks, long, sturdy hunting spears. They are the weapons of farmers, and they are about to defend their homes against an unknown enemy. Who are these raiders? They could be anyone. They might be a band of desperate men from a neighboring valley whose own harvest has failed. They could be outlaws living wild in the forest. Or they could be something far more organized and terrifying, a war band of a rival lord, or even a foreign invader from across the sea. To the villagers it does not matter. They are strangers, and they have come for what little the village has. The men gather behind the flimsy wooden palisade, peering through the gaps, their hearts pounding. In the fading light they can see them now, a group of figures on the horizon moving quickly toward the village. There are perhaps 20 of them, a small number, but they are armed for a fight, with leather shields, iron helmets, and the glint of swords. Against the farmers with their axes and pitchforks, they are a formidable force. The world of the Dark Ages is a world of constant, low-level violence. The grand imperial peace of Rome is a distant memory. Power is now fragmented, held by local lords and warlords who are constantly vying with each other for land and resources. The village is a pawn in their games, a prize to be fought over. A raid like this is not an unusual event. It is a terrifying but accepted part of the rhythm of life. The raiders do not want a prolonged battle, they want a quick victory. Their goal is to smash through the village's weak defenses, seize whatever they can, and be gone before the local lord can be alerted and send his own warriors in response. They are after food, the sacks of grain in the storage huts, the livestock in their pens. They are also after people. A strong young man or woman can be taken and sold as a slave, a valuable commodity in this brutal world. The attack begins with a terrifying war cry, a sound designed to instill fear and break the defender's will to fight. The raiders charge the palisade, some trying to climb over, others hacking at the wooden stakes with their axes. The village men fight back with a desperate courage born of having everything to lose. A spear is thrust through a gap in the wall. An axe is swung at a climbing figure. The sounds of splintering wood, of shouting men, of the clash of iron fill the air. Inside the huts, the women and children huddle in the darkness, listening to the terrifying sounds of the battle. They pray to every saint they know, their bodies trembling. They are completely helpless, their fate being decided just a few yards away by the strength and courage of their husbands and sons. This is the ultimate nightmare of village life. It is the violent intrusion of the chaotic, lawless outside world into their small, ordered community. A successful raid can destroy a village in a single night. Even if the attack is repelled, the cost can be devastating. Men will be wounded, perhaps killed. The palisade will be damaged. And the psychological scar, the memory of the terror, will linger for years. But tonight, let us imagine that the villagers are strong. Their desperate defense holds. They fight with a ferocity that the raiders, who are looking for an easy prize, did not expect. After a brief, violent struggle, the raiders decide the cost is too high. They pull back, dragging their wounded with them, and melt back into the darkness of the forest. For a long time after they are gone, there is a stunned silence. Then, slowly, cautiously, the villagers begin to emerge. They tend to their wounded. They assess the damage to the palisade. The immediate danger has passed, but the fear remains. No one will sleep soundly tonight. The men will stand watch until dawn, their makeshift weapons still in hand, staring into the darkness, listening for any sound. Part 3. Faith and Fear. The monastic morning. Long before the rooster crows in the village below, before the first hint of grey light touches the horizon, another sound breaks the profound stillness of the night. It is the tolling of a single, heavy bell. Its deep, resonant tone rolls out from a stone tower across the misty valleys and the dark, sleeping forests. It is a sound of order, of discipline, of a world waking not to the needs of the body, but to the needs of the soul. This is the call to Matin, the first of the canonical hours, and it marks the beginning of another day inside a monastery. Let us find ourselves within the thick stone walls of this sanctuary, a fortress of faith perched on a lonely hill, far from the chaotic world. We are in the monastery's church, a place of deep shadows and even deeper silence, broken now only by the soft shuffle of woolen robes on the cold flagstones. The air is frigid, carrying the ancient scent of cold stone, melting beeswax, and the faint, sweet smell of incense from yesterday's vespers. The only light comes from a few flickering candles on the altar, and the single tallow lamps held by the monks as they file into their places in the choir stalls. They are shadows in the gloom, their faces hidden within the cowls of their simple, undyed habits. They move without a word, a community bound by a shared vow of silence, poverty, and obedience. When all are assembled, the abbot gives a quiet signal, and from the darkness a single voice rises. It is a plain song chant, a lone clear note that hangs in the cold air before it is joined by the voices of the other monks, weaving a complex hypnotic melody. The words are in Latin, the ghost tongue of a fallen empire, now the universal language of the Church. They are singing the psalms, ancient poems of praise, lament, and prophecy. Their words recited in this same manner in countless monasteries across the dark continent, every single night. This is the Opus Dei, the work of God, and it is the monk's primary duty, more important than sleep, food, or comfort. They are the spiritual soldiers of the world, and this is their watch in the night. When the service ends, the silence returns, and the monks disperse. Some return to their cells, small, bare rooms with a hard straw mattress, a rough blanket, and perhaps a wooden crucifix on the wall, for a brief period of private prayer or sleep before the next service at dawn. But for others, the day's work has already begun. We follow a small group of them into the scriptorium, the writing room. Here, the preservation of a world's knowledge is underway. By the weak, flickering light of carefully tended candles, a handful of monks sit hunched over tall, sloped writing desks. These are the scribes. Their task is to copy, by hand, the precious books that are the monastery's greatest treasure. The silence here is absolute, broken only by the scratch of a quill pen on vellum and the occasional soft cough. Each monk is a link in a fragile chain of transmission, stretching back to the Roman world and beyond. They are copying the Gospels, the epistles of St. Paul, the lives of the saints, but they are also copying the works of Virgil, of Ovid, of the great pagan philosophers and historians. They may not have fully understood or approved of these ancient texts, but they understood that they contained a knowledge and a beauty that was in danger of being lost to the world forever. The work is agonizingly slow. A scribe might complete only a few pages in a single day. He makes his own ink from oak galls or soot. He carefully rules each page, made from the prepared and scraped skin of a sheep or calf, with a sharp point to ensure the lines of text are straight. Then, with a pen carved from a goose feather, he begins the painstaking process of forming each letter. A single mistake could ruin a whole page, a week S worth of an animal, S skin, and a day S worth of his own labour. As the first true light of dawn filters through the high, narrow windows of the scriptorium, the bell tolls again, calling the monks to lauds, the morning prayer. They put down their pens, cap their inkwells, and file back to the church, their voices once again filling the cold air with the timeless chants. Their day will continue in this rhythm, a cycle of prayer, work, and study that has remained unchanged for generations. They will work in the gardens, tend the sick in the infirmary, and teach the young boys sent to the monastery for education. They are a small, flickering candle of order and learning in a vast and encroaching darkness. Let the image of this quiet, disciplined world bring you peace. See the steady hand of the scribe, the flickering candlelight on the ancient page, the silent figures moving through the cold stone cloister. Hear the low, hypnotic drone of the chant, a sound that has echoed through these halls for 1,000 years. This is a world of immense calm, of purpose, and of a deep, abiding faith in the importance of their quiet work. Let that sense of timeless order and profound peace settle over your mind, a quiet sanctuary from the noise of your own world. The relic's power. Let us travel now to a village that is gripped by fear. The spring rains have not come. The earth in the fields is dry and cracked, and the newly planted seeds have not sprouted. The people watch the empty, cloudless sky with growing dread. A drought means a failed harvest. A failed harvest means famine. Their prayers in the small village church seem to go unanswered. In this moment of deep crisis, the community turns to its most powerful and sacred treasure, a relic. The relic is housed in the monastery on the hill. It is the village's connection to the divine, its most potent spiritual weapon. It is not an abstract concept, it is a physical object. In this case, it is said to be a piece of the bone of a local saint, a holy man who lived and died in this very region centuries ago. The bone, small and yellowed with age, is kept within a magnificent container called a reliquary. The reliquary is a work of incredible art and devotion, a small casket of gilded wood, studded with polished, uncut gemstones that the villagers have donated over generations. It is far and away the most beautiful and valuable object for 100 miles around. The desperate villagers send a deputation to the abbot of the monastery, begging him to allow the relic to be brought down to the village. After a period of prayer and consideration, the abbot agrees. A special day is appointed for a procession. On that day, the entire village gathers. They have put on their best, cleanest clothes. They have fasted since the night before. An air of solemn, anxious anticipation hangs over the crowd. From the monastery gate, the procession begins. At its head are 2 young monks, one swinging a censer from which billows clouds of fragrant, holy smoke. Behind them, 4 of the most senior monks, their faces set in grim concentration, carry the precious reliquary on a special litter. The abbot himself walks behind, his hand raised in a slow, continuous blessing. As the procession slowly winds its way down the steep path from the monastery, the villagers fall to their knees in the dust. They make the sign of the cross. Many are weeping. They see this not as a symbolic act, but as a direct intervention. The saint himself, through his earthly remains, is coming to visit them, to see their plight, to intercede with God on their behalf. The power of the holy is made tangible, visible, present. The procession enters the village and moves slowly toward the small, dark church. The people follow behind, a great silent crowd, their eyes fixed on the gleaming casket. Once inside the church, the reliquary is placed upon the altar. A special mass is held, the priest's voice echoing in the packed building, his prayers more fervent and desperate than usual. After the Mass, the reliquary is not taken back to the monastery. It is carried out to the parched fields. The monks and the priest lead the entire village in a slow, solemn walk around the perimeter of their land. They chant litanies, calling on the names of saints, begging for their help. They stop at each corner of the field, and the abbot holds the reliquary aloft, turning it to the 4 points of the compass, a silent, powerful appeal to heaven. The people believe, with every fibre of their being, that the physical presence of this holy bone can change the world. Its power can heal the sick, protect them from plague, and yes, bring the rain. The sacredness of the object radiates outwards, they believe, purifying the land, driving away the demons or evil spirits that are holding back the clouds. For the rest of the day, the villagers will file into the church to pray before the relic. They might leave a small offering, a single coin, a handful of grain from their dwindling stores, a simple wooden carving. It is a world where faith is intensely physical. God and the saints are not just distant, abstract beings. Their power resides in specific places and in specific objects. A relic is a conduit, a direct line to the divine. And perhaps, that evening, as the monks carry the reliquary back up the hill to the safety of the monastery, a dark cloud appears on the horizon. Perhaps the wind shifts, carrying the scent of moisture, and perhaps as the village sleeps, the first tentative drops of rain begin to fall on the thirsty earth. To the villagers, this is not a coincidence, it is a miracle. Their faith has been rewarded. The saint has heard their prayers. Let your mind rest in the solemnity of this scene. Feel the deep, unquestioning faith of the people. See the gleaming gold of the reliquary against the dry, brown earth. Hear the low, hopeful chant of the monks. In a world of fear and uncertainty, of powerlessness against the forces of nature, this small, sacred object provides a profound sense of hope and control. It is a tangible anchor for their faith. Let the power of that simple, profound belief bring a sense of peace and security to your own heart. All is not lost. There is a power greater than the troubles of the world. Let that thought be a comforting blanket as you drift into sleep. The oath of loyalty. In the smoky, torch-lit great hall of a local lord, a young man kneels. He is dressed in the finest tunic he owns, but his head is bare, and he wears no sword. He kneels before the lord, a powerfully built man in his middle years, who sits on a carved wooden chair on a raised dais. The lord's own warriors, his thangs or his knights, stand along the walls of the hall, their faces grim in the flickering light, their hands resting on the hilts of their long swords. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke, roasted meat, and unwashed bodies. A ceremony of immense importance is about to take place. The young man places his own hands together, as if in prayer, and extends them toward the Lord. The Lord takes the young man's hands and encloses them within his own large, calloused ones. This simple, powerful gesture is the heart of the ceremony. It is the act of homage. Then the young man speaks, his voice clear and steady in the quiet hall. He says the ancient words which may vary from place to place, but carry the same essential meaning. I become your man, or for the lands I hold from you, and I will bear you faith in life and limb in return for God's help and the saints. This is his oath of fealty. It is a sacred vow, a binding contract that is witnessed by everyone in the hall and by God himself. It is the glue that holds this fragmented, violent world together. This is the foundation of the feudal system. After the oath, the young man rises. The Lord also stands and gives him a kiss on the cheek, a sign of peace and acceptance. Then the Lord presents the young man with a symbolic object. It might be a banner, a staff, or even a clump of earth from the land he is being granted. This is the act of investiture. It signifies that the Lord is now entrusting a piece of his property, a village, a few fields, a mill, to this young man, his new vassal. In a world with no centralized government, no universal rule of law, and no reliable currency, this is how power is structured. The king or a great duke owns all the land in theory, but he cannot manage it all himself. So he grants large portions of it to his most powerful lords. These lords, in turn, grant smaller portions to their own warriors and retainers. This young man is now part of that chain. His vow is not an empty promise. It comes with heavy obligations. The primary one is military service. When the Lord calls his banners, this young man must appear, armed and armored, with a certain number of his own fighting men ready to go to war. He might be called to defend the Lord's lands from a rival, to join the Lord in a raid on a neighbor's territory, or to serve in the king's army. This service is the rent he pays for his land. He also owes his Lord counsel. He must attend the Lord's court to help him dispense justice and make important decisions. He might owe him financial aid to help pay for the Lord's son being knighted or his daughter's wedding. And above all, he owes him his loyalty. To betray one's Lord was the most heinous crime imaginable, a sin against both man and God. In return, the Lord also has obligations. He must protect his vassal from his enemies. He must provide him with justice in his court, and most importantly, he has granted him the land that will provide his livelihood. The vassal is now the master of that small piece of the world. He has the right to the labor of the peasants who work the fields, to a share of their crops, to the fees from the mill. This is how he will support himself, his family, and the fighting men he is now obligated to provide. This ceremony creates a deeply personal bond. It is not an impersonal contract. The relationship between lord and vassal is meant to be one of mutual trust and affection, like that between a father and a son. This bond, replicated thousands of times over, from the king down to the lowliest knight, creates a complex web of loyalties that forms the very skeleton of society. It is a system born of necessity in a dangerous world. It provides a way to raise an army, to administer justice, and to maintain a fragile kind of order. But it is also a system that is inherently unstable. Lords and vassals quarrel. Loyalties are divided. A man might hold land from two different lords, and if those two lords go to war with each other, he faces an impossible choice. The history of this age is a history of these oaths being made, tested, and broken. But for now, in the warm, smoky hall, the ceremony is complete. The Lord calls for ale. Great horns are filled and passed around. The tension in the hall dissolves into feasting and rough laughter. The young man takes his seat on the bench among the other warriors. He is no longer just a man. He is a lord's man. He has a place in the world. He has a duty to perform and a master to serve. Let your mind rest on this solemn, ancient ritual. The clasp of hands, the sacred words, the weight of the promise. It is a moment of deep human connection, an attempt to build a bond of trust in a world of fear. Let the image of the flickering torchlight, the quiet intensity of the oath, and the sense of a new, powerful bond being forged bring a feeling of stability and peace to your mind. The invasion's smoke. The peace of a late summer afternoon is shattered by a frantic, desperate sound, the ringing of the church bell. But this is not the slow, rhythmic toll that calls the faithful to prayer. This is a fast, chaotic, clanging alarm, a sound of pure terror that speaks of imminent danger. From the coast, a thin column of black smoke is rising into the clear blue sky, a signal that has been seen before and whose meaning is understood by all. The longships have come. This is the age of the Viking invasions. From the cold, fjord-scarred lands of Scandinavia, a wave of Norse raiders, traders, and explorers is spreading out across Europe. To the monks who write the chronicles, they are a scourge of God, a punishment for the sins of the world. To the villagers who live along the coasts and the navigable rivers, they are a recurring nightmare of fire and death. The alarm spreads like wildfire. In the fields, the farmers drop their scythes and run for the safety of the woods. In the village, mothers grab their children and flee, taking with them nothing but the clothes on their backs. The priest of the small church hastily gathers the sacred communion vessels, wraps them in a cloth, and buries them in a secret place, praying they will not be found. There is no thought of defense. The Vikings are professional warriors, large, fierce men, armed with long-bladed axes, swords, and round shields. Against them, the farmers' makeshift weapons are useless. The only hope is to hide. The village empties in minutes, its people melting into the deep, ancient forest that surrounds them. From the cover of the trees, they watch in silent terror as the invaders arrive. The long ships, with their high, carved prows, shaped like dragons or serpents, are pulled up onto the beach. The raiders swarm ashore, a wave of brightly clothed, heavily armed men. They move with a terrifying speed and efficiency. They are not here to conquer and hold the land. They are here for plunder. They sweep through the deserted village, kicking in the flimsy doors of the huts. They are looking for anything of value. Their primary targets are portable wealth, silver coins, jewelry, and most importantly, people. A healthy young man or woman can be captured and sold for a great price in the slave markets of Dublin or the Middle East. They are a human crop to be harvested. The raiders are thorough. They overturn furniture, smash pottery, and rip open straw mattresses in their search for hidden valuables. They round up the livestock, the oxen, the cows, the pigs, and herd them down to the ships. They empty the granaries, loading the precious sacks of grain onto their boats. They are stripping the village of everything it needs to survive the coming winter. The church, the one stone building in the village, is a special target. The Vikings are pagans. They have no reverence for the Christian God or his saints. To them, a church is simply a building that is likely to contain the community's greatest treasures: silver chalices, golden candlesticks, and richly embroidered vestments. They smash the door with their axes and ransack the holy place, their shouts echoing in the sacred space. When they have taken everything of value, they put the village to the torch. They thrust their burning torches into the dry thatch of the hut roofs. The fire catches with a roar, and in minutes the entire village is an inferno. The black smoke, the smoke that was the first signal of their arrival, now billows up from the burning homes of the people who watch, helpless and heartbroken, from the woods. The raid is over as quickly as it began. The Vikings load their plunder and their captives onto their longships, push them back out into the water, and raise their great square sails. By sunset, they are gone, disappearing over the horizon as swiftly as they came. For a long time, the villagers remain hidden in the woods, waiting to be sure that danger has truly passed. Then, as twilight falls, they creep back to the place that was their home. They are left with nothing. Their homes are smoking ruins. Their livestock is gone. Their harvest, the product of a year of backbreaking labor, has been stolen. Their friends and family members have been taken from them, never to be seen again. They are facing the coming winter with no food and no shelter. They are overwhelmed by a grief and despair so profound it is almost silent. A woman sifts through the warm ashes of her home, searching for anything that might have survived. A man stands, staring at the empty pens where his animals once were, his face a mask of shock. This is the brutal reality of a world without a strong, protecting power. The village is a soft target, its people living at the mercy of predators. The smoke rising from the ruins is a symbol of their profound vulnerability, but they are not broken. They are survivors. They will begin to rebuild. They will salvage what timbers they can. They will cut new thatch from the marshes. They will appeal to their Lord for help, for a loan of seed grain to plant next spring. They will huddle together through the winter, sharing what little they have. They will endure. Let your mind rest in the deep, sorrowful quiet of the ruined village. The heat of the fire has faded, leaving behind the cold smell of ash and despair. But in this quiet there is also the first, faint stirring of resilience. The human spirit, though bent, is not broken. Let the profound peace of this quiet, sorrowful endurance calm your mind. The worst has happened, and they have survived. Let that simple fact bring a sense of deep, quiet strength to you as you rest. The peasant's prayer. The day is over. The farmer has returned from the fields, his body aching. The family has eaten their simple meal of pottage and coarse bread. The fire in the central hearth has been banked for the night, its red embers providing the only light in the smoky darkness of the hut. The children are asleep on their straw pallets, their small forms huddled together for warmth. The world is quiet, save for the sound of the wind outside and the soft breathing of the sleepers. In this deep stillness, the farmer and his wife kneel on the hard earth floor. They are not in a church. They are in their own home, but this moment is as sacred as any service. They bow their heads, close their eyes, and begin to pray. Their prayer is not a formal, memorized litany. It is a quiet, whispered conversation with God, a pouring out of the hopes and fears that fill their hearts. Their hands are clasped, their calloused knuckles white. Their faces, illuminated by the faint glow of the embers, are etched with weariness and a deep, simple piety. What do they pray for? Their concerns are not grand or abstract. They are the immediate pressing needs of their daily lives. The farmer prays for rain. He prays for just the right amount of it, not so much that it floods the fields and rots the seed, and not so little that the sun bakes the ground to dust. He visualizes his barley a field of healthy green shoots and prays that it will be protected from blight, from hail, from the deer that come down from the forest to eat the tender stalks. His entire existence is a gamble on the harvest, and he puts his hope in a power far greater than his own. His wife prays for the health of their children. She pictures each child's face and whispers their name, asking God and the Holy Mother Mary to watch over them. She prays that they will be spared from the fevers that sweep through the village, from the croup that can steal a child's breath in the night, from the accidents that are a constant threat in a world of open fires, deep wells, and sharp tools. She has likely buried a child or two already. The fear of losing another is a constant cold presence in her heart. They pray for their livestock. They pray that their ox will not sicken or break a leg, for without the ox they cannot plough. They pray that their cow will continue to give milk, and that their pig will fatten through the autumn. Their animals are not pets, they are partners in survival, and their well-being is inseparable from the family's own. They pray for protection. They pray that the Lord of the manor will be just, that his demands for labor and grain will not be too great. They pray that the Lord's reeve, the man who manages the estate, will be honest and not cheat them. And they pray with a deep and visceral fear to be spared from the violence of the outside world. They pray that the raiders will not come, that their village will be passed by, that their home will not be put to the torch. Their faith is a simple, direct, and powerful thing. They may not understand the complex theology debated by the learned monks in the monastery. They cannot read the Bible for themselves. Their knowledge of their religion comes from the stories they hear from the village priest, from the images painted on the church walls, from the yearly cycle of Christian festivals that marks the passing of the seasons. Their God is a powerful and sometimes wrathful figure. He is the Lord of the harvest, the master of storms, the judge who weighs their souls. But he is also a protector, a father, a source of comfort in a hard and often merciless world. They also pray to the saints who feel closer, more approachable. They pray to Saint Joseph for a sturdy home, to Saint Giles for the protection of the forest, and above all, to Mary, the Mother of God, who understands the sorrows of a parent's heart. Their prayer ends with the simple words the priest has taught them, the Our Father, whispered in their own rough local dialect. Then they make the sign of the cross, a gesture of protection and faith. They rise from their knees and make their way to their own straw bed. They lie down, pulling the rough woolen blankets and animal skins over them. The prayer has not solved their problems. The fields are still dry. The threat of sickness and violence still looms. But the prayer has brought them a measure of peace. They have placed their burdens in the hands of a power they trust. They have done all they can, and the rest is up to God. This nightly ritual of surrender is what allows them to sleep, to find the rest they need to face another day of hard labor and uncertainty. Let the image of this quiet, humble prayer fill your mind. The two figures kneeling in the darkness, their whispered words rising with the smoke from the embers. It is a moment of profound, simple humanity. In a world of immense hardship, faith is not a luxury. It is a shield, a comfort, a source of the deep inner strength needed to endure. Let the peace of that simple, heartfelt prayer settle over you now, a quiet blessing to guard your own rest. Part 4. Hardship and Fleeting Joy. The empty table. Let us return to the village in a time of deep distress. The peasant's prayer for a good harvest has gone unanswered. The spring was too dry, the summer too wet, and a blight has shriveled the grain in the fields. This is a time of famine, a spectre that haunts the dark ages, a recurring catastrophe that can bring a whole region to its knees. The communal granary, which in a good year would be full to the rafters with sacks of grain, is almost empty. The Lord's reeve has already taken his master's share, for the Lord must eat, whatever the plight of his peasants. What is left is a meagre amount, not nearly enough to last the winter. We are in the farmer's hut. It is the time of the evening meal, but there is no pottage bubbling over the hearth. There is no heavy, dark loaf of bread to be cut. The table, a simple plank of wood set on trestles, is bare. The family sits on their low stools, their faces thin and pale, in the dim light of a single tallow candle. The children are restless, their small bellies aching with a hunger that is more than the usual pre-meal pangs. It is a deep, gnawing emptiness. Their whimpers are quiet, exhausted. The mother has done what she can. She has made a thin, watery soup from a handful of dried peas and the last of the onions. She has boiled leather from an old pair of shoes to try and extract some nourishment. She has ground acorns and tree bark into a coarse flour to make a small, bitter, unsatisfying bread. This is not food that sustains. It is food that merely postpones starvation. The father sits, staring at the empty table, his hands clenched. He feels a profound sense of failure, of powerlessness. It is his duty to provide for his family, to feed them from the work of his hands. But his work has come to nothing. The land has betrayed him. He looks at the pale faces of his children and feels a grief so deep it has no words. This is the reality of a world without a global food network, without government aid, without any safety net. A community's survival depends entirely on what it can grow in its own fields. When the fields fail, the community starves. As the famine deepens, the social fabric of the village begins to unravel. The instinct for survival overrides the bonds of community. Food is hoarded. Families become suspicious of their neighbors. A scrawny chicken that goes missing from a pen can lead to a violent accusation. The old and the weak are the first to be neglected, their small rations diverted to those who are strong enough to work. The people become ghosts of their former selves. Their bodies waste away, their skin hangs loose on their bones. Their minds become dull, consumed by a single, obsessive thought: food. They spend their days foraging in the woods, digging for edible roots like pig nuts, stripping the bark from elm trees, gathering nettles and weeds. They compete with the wild animals for every last berry, every last nut. Disease follows in the wake of hunger. Malnourished bodies have no resistance to sickness. Dysentery caused by drinking contaminated water or eating spoiled food sweeps through the village. Fevers and respiratory illnesses claim the weakest. The sound of the church bell tolling for another death becomes a grimly familiar part of the day. The lord of the manor may offer some help, distributing a small amount of grain from his own well-stocked stores. But this is not an act of charity. It is a calculated investment. He needs his peasants to survive because without them, his fields will not be ploughed next year. but he will not give them enough to make them strong. He will give them just enough to keep them alive and in his debt. The famine creates a world of ghosts. People move slowly, their energy sapped. There is no laughter in the village, no games played by the children. There is only a heavy, listless silence, the quiet of a community slowly dying. The hope that sustains them is pinned to a single, distant point in the future, the next harvest. They must survive the winter, they must find the strength to plough and plant in the spring. And they must pray that next year the weather will be kind, the land will be fruitful, and the table will not be empty. Let your mind rest in the profound, sorrowful stillness of this scene, the bare wooden table, the hungry faces, the quiet desperation. This is the bedrock of hardship upon which this world is built. But even in this deep despair, there is a flicker of endurance. The family is together. They are sharing this suffering. There is a quiet strength in that shared silence. Let the profound quiet of this empty room calm you. Your own hunger is satisfied. You are safe and warm. Let the contrast bring a sense of deep gratitude and peace, a quiet comfort that allows you to let go of the day's worries and find rest. The plague's shadow. In the wake of famine, or arriving on its own as a terrifying, invisible traveler, comes another of the great fears of the age, the plague. We are in a village that has, until now, felt safe. But news has come from a travelling merchant, whispered in fearful tones, of a sickness in a town a few days' journey away. A sickness that is swift, deadly, and unstoppable. The word used is simply pestilentia, the pestilence. They do not understand its cause. They have no concept of viruses or bacteria. They see it as a miasma, a bad air, a poisonous vapor that rises from swamps or is carried on the wind. Or they see it as a divine punishment, a manifestation of God's wrath for their sins. This lack of understanding makes it all the more terrifying. It is an enemy with no face, no army, against which there is no defense. The first sign that the plague has arrived is when a family suddenly falls ill. It begins with a high fever, a pounding headache, and a deep, aching weakness. The victim takes to their straw bed, shivering uncontrollably. Then the telltale signs appear: painful, swollen lumps in the groin, the armpits, or on the neck. These are the buboes, which give the bubonic plague its name. Dark, bruised-looking patches may appear on the skin, a sign of internal bleeding. Panic grips the village. The family with the sickness is immediately isolated. Their neighbours, who yesterday might have shared a loaf of bread with them, now shun them completely. The door of their hut might be marked with a crude cross, a warning to all to stay away. Sometimes the door is barred or even walled up from the outside, turning the home into a tomb for the living and the dead. The village priest is one of the few who is brave enough to enter the afflicted home. He comes to administer the last rites, to anoint the sick with holy oil and hear their final confession. He believes his duty to God outweighs his fear for his own life. But often he too will fall sick, and the village is left without spiritual comfort, the church bell falling silent. The sickness spreads with terrifying speed. It is carried by the fleas on the rats that infest the wattle and daub huts and the thatched roofs. In the close, unsanitary quarters of the village, it moves from one family to the next, like a fire in a dry field. Each morning, people wake with a profound dread, checking their own bodies for the first signs of fever, listening for the sounds of wailing from a neighboring hut. The normal rhythms of life collapse. No one works in the fields. The fear of contagion is greater than the fear of hunger. The village becomes a place of eerie, fearful silence, punctuated by the sounds of suffering. The healthy huddle in their homes, praying that the shadow of the plague will pass over their door. Death comes quickly, often within a few days of the first symptoms. The disposal of the bodies becomes a desperate, fearful task. There is no time for proper funerals. The dead are wrapped in simple shrouds and carried out at night to a communal plague pit, dug in a field far from the village. They are buried without ceremony, a quick prayer muttered over the open grave before the living hurry away, holding cloths over their faces to ward off the bad air. The plague is a great leveller. It strikes the lord in his timber hall as easily as the peasant in his hut. But the poor, living in more crowded and less sanitary conditions, suffer the most. A village can lose a third, a half, or even more of its population in a single outbreak. The survivors are left in a state of shock and profound grief. They are surrounded by the ghosts of their dead neighbors, by empty huts and abandoned fields. And then, as mysteriously as it arrived, the pestilence begins to recede. The number of new cases dwindles and then stops. The survivors, gaunt and traumatized, slowly emerge from their homes into a changed world. The air no longer feels poisonous. The immediate threat has passed. The aftermath is a strange mix of sorrow and opportunity. The profound loss of family and friends leaves a deep emotional scar. But for those who remain, the world has been transformed. Labor is now scarce. The lord of the manor needs his fields ploughed and is willing to offer better terms to the surviving peasants. Land is plentiful. A farmer might be able to take over the abandoned fields of his dead neighbors, increasing his own holdings. The rigid social structure has been shaken, and for the first time, there is a glimmer of opportunity for the common man. But that is for the future. For now, there is only the quiet task of grieving, of cleaning, of picking up the pieces of their shattered community. They have walked through the valley of the shadow of death, and have, by some miracle of chance or divine grace, survived. Let your mind rest in the deep, exhausted quiet of a village after the plague. The fear has passed, leaving a profound and sorrowful calm. The air is clean again. The sun shines on a world that is both emptier and, for the survivors, filled with a new, fragile sense of their own precious lives. Let the peace of this survival soothe you. You are healthy. You are safe. Allow that feeling of well-being to relax your body and quiet your mind. The marriage feast. Out of the long seasons of hardship and fear, there are moments of light, of communal joy, that shine all the more brightly for the darkness that surrounds them. One of the most important of these is a wedding. A marriage is not just a union of two people. It is an alliance of two families, a promise of continuity, a celebration of life in a world where life is fragile. And at the heart of it is the marriage feast. Let us imagine the village on such a day. A young couple has been married in the small stone church, the priest blessing their union before God and the community. Now the entire village has gathered in the open space in the center of the huts, or if the Lord is generous, in his own great hall. An atmosphere of rare, unrestrained happiness fills the air. This is a day to forget the hunger and the toil. For this one day, the tables, long, rough planks set on trestles, are laden with the best food and drink the community can muster. The families of the bride and groom have been saving and preparing for this for months. A pig, fattened for the occasion, has been slaughtered and is roasting over a large open fire, its skin crackling and dripping fat that sizzles in the flames. The smell alone is a cause for celebration. There might be chickens, stewed with onions and herbs, and perhaps even a haunch of venison, a gift from the lord of the manor, or perhaps poached from his forest. Great Round loaves of bread are piled high, and for this special day, it is not the coarse, dark bread of everyday life. This bread is made with wheat flour, a rare luxury, making it whiter and lighter. It is a taste of the world of the wealthy. There are bowls of peas and beans, cooked with a precious piece of bacon for flavor. There are wheels of hard cheese and pots of yellow butter, and to drink there is ale. Not the thin, sour small ale of the daily routine, but a special, strong brew made for the wedding. It is dark and potent, and it flows freely. Large leather jacks and wooden tankards are passed from hand to hand. The more the people drink, the louder the laughter, the broader the smiles. The bride and groom sit at the head table, looking shy and overwhelmed. The bride wears her best woolen dress, perhaps dyed a cheerful colour like blue or green using woad or weld. Her hair, which she normally wears in a practical braid, is unbound and flows down her back, a sign of her youth and maidenhood. A garland of wildflowers is woven into it. The groom is dressed in a new tunic, his face scrubbed clean. They eat little, their minds on the new life that begins for them tonight. There is music. A travelling minstrel might be here, a rare and welcome visitor, playing a lively tune on a small harp or a rebec, a simple bowed instrument. He sings songs of heroic deeds, of tragic love, of comical village mishaps. The people clap along, their feet tapping. If there is no minstrel, a local man might play a pipe or a drum, providing a simple, rhythmic beat. As the afternoon wears on and the ale takes its effect, some of the villagers begin to dance. The dances are not the elegant, courtly dances of the nobility. They are energetic, earthy folk dances performed in a circle or a long line. They are full of stomping, clapping, and whooping. It is a rare chance for physical exuberance, a release from the constrained, repetitive motions of their daily labor. The feast is a vital social ritual. It reaffirms the bonds of the community. Feuds are forgotten, at least for a day. Families share food and drink. It is a moment of collective optimism. The marriage represents the future. It is a promise that the village will continue, that new children will be born to take the place of those who have been lost, that the cycle of life will go on. As evening falls, the torches are lit, casting a warm, dancing glow over the scene. The feasting and drinking will continue late into the night. It is a brief, precious pocket of warmth, light, and plenty in a life that is often cold, dark, and meagre. It is a memory that will be cherished and talked about for months to come, a bright spot to remember during the long, hard days of work. Let the sounds and smells of this joyful feast fill your mind. Hear the crackle of the fire, the lively tune of the minstrel's harp, the sound of unrestrained laughter. Smell the rich aroma of the roasting pork, the sweet scent of the strong ale. It is a moment of pure, simple, human happiness. There is no anxiety here, no fear. There is only the warmth of community and the hopeful promise of a new beginning. Let that feeling of simple, heartfelt joy bring a deep sense of contentment and peace to your own heart as you drift to sleep. The child's carved toy. In a world defined by the hard necessities of survival, there is little room for things that are not useful. Every object in a peasant's hut has a purpose: the pot for cooking, the axe for chopping wood, the needle for mending clothes. And yet, even in this harsh and practical world, there is a space for something more. There is a space for play, for imagination, for the simple, profound joy of a child's toy. Let us look into the corner of a smoky hut. A small child, no more than 4 or 5 years old, is sitting on the earthen floor, completely absorbed in their own small world. The child is holding a small object in their hands, turning it over and over. It is a wooden horse. The toy is a simple, humble thing. It has been carved by the child's father during the long, dark evenings of winter. He is not a professional craftsman, but a farmer, and he has made it with the same simple knife he uses to mend a harness or cut a slice of bread. The wood is a piece of scrap, a branch that fell from a tree in the forest. The horse is not a perfect, realistic replica. It is a rough, impressionistic shape. The lines are simple, the form a little blocky. You can see the marks of the knife on its surface. It has no painted details, no saddle, no reins. It is just the pure, essential form of a horse captured in a piece of wood. Its beauty is in its simplicity, in the love and care that went into its making. To the child, this small wooden object is a treasure. It is one of the very few things in the world that belongs entirely to them. In their imagination, it is not a crude carving. It is a magnificent warhorse, a brave steed that can carry them on incredible adventures. They make it gallop across the packed earth of the floor, its imaginary hooves thundering. They whisper stories to it, making the soft, whinnying sounds of a real horse. This small toy is the child's primary tool for learning about the world. Through their play, they imitate the lives of the adults around them. The wooden horse becomes the ox that pulls the plough, or the Lord's charger that they have seen from a distance. The child's world of play is a miniature version of the world of work and power that they will one day inherit. Children in this age do not have a long, protected period of childhood. From a very young age, they are expected to contribute to the family's survival. A small girl will learn to spin thread, to feed the chickens, to watch her younger siblings. A small boy will learn to gather firewood, to scare the birds from the crops, to lead the livestock to pasture. Their lives are a long apprenticeship for adulthood. Play is the brief, precious time that is truly their own. Their toys are not bought from a shop. They are found objects and handmade creations. A smooth, round stone can become a doll's head. A collection of acorns can become a flock of sheep. A simple piece of wood can become a sword, a plough, or a horse. These toys are all the more treasured because they are rare, and because they are imbued with the power of the child's own imagination. The wooden horse may be passed down from an older sibling to a younger one. Over the years, its edges become smoother, worn down by the touch of many small hands. It absorbs the dirt, the smoke, and the stories of the family. It becomes a silent witness to the passage of a generation. This small, insignificant object is a powerful symbol of the resilience of the human spirit. It is a testament to the fact that even in the harshest of circumstances, people find a way to create beauty, to tell stories, and to provide their children with moments of joy. It is a sign of love, a father's quiet gift to his child, a small piece of light in a dark world. Let the image of this simple wooden toy bring a sense of peace and tenderness to your mind. See the child, lost in a world of imagination, their face serious with the importance of their game. Feel the smooth, worn texture of the wood. It is a reminder that happiness does not require great wealth or an abundance of possessions. It can be found in the simplest of things, in a small object crafted with love, in the boundless power of a child's imagination. Let that simple, profound truth be a gentle lullaby, quieting your own complex thoughts and guiding you into a peaceful, dreaming sleep. The hearth's glow. As the last light of day fades from the sky and a deep, starless dark envelops the land, the world of the village shrinks to the size of a single room. It shrinks to the small circle of light and warmth cast by the fire in the center of the hut. This is the hearth, and it is the true heart of the home, the anchor of the family's existence, the one bastion against the cold and the dark. Let us sit in the smoky dimness and simply watch this ancient scene. The fire is not a roaring blaze. Fuel is precious, and the wood that was gathered with such effort must be used sparingly. The fire is a low, steady bed of glowing red embers with a few logs laid carefully on top, burning with a slow, quiet flame. There is no chimney. The smoke rises in a lazy grey plume towards the smoke hole in the centre of the thatched roof, but much of it hangs in the air, making the eyes water and coating the inside of the roof with a thick, black layer of soot. The air is thick with the smell of burning wood, oak or ash or thorn, a smell that permeates everything: the clothes, the blankets, the very skin of the people who live here. The family is huddled close to the fire, drawn to its warmth like moths to a flame. The winter wind scratches at the wattle and daub walls and moans around the edges of the hide-covered doorway, a constant reminder of the vast, cold emptiness outside. But here, within the small circle of the hearth's glow, there is a pocket of safety, a fragile bubble of warmth. This is the time of day when the hard labour is done, the tools are put away, the animals are settled. This is the time for the family to be together, to exist in the quiet companionship that comes from a shared life of hardship. There is not much conversation. These are not people who fill the silence with idle chatter. But it is not an empty silence. It is a comfortable, familiar one. The father might be mending a piece of leather harness, his hands moving slowly and surely in the flickering light. His knife scrapes against the leather, a soft, rhythmic sound. The mother might be spinning wool into thread using a simple drop spindle. The spindle whirls and dances at the end of its thread, a small, hypnotic motion. The gentle hum of the spinning is one of the fundamental sounds of this world. An older child might be learning one of these tasks watching their parents' hands, their own small fingers fumbling to imitate the practiced movements. An elderly grandparent, their working days behind them, might be sitting closest to the fire, their chin on their chest, dozing. Their presence is a comfort, a living link to the family's past. This is also the time for stories. The grandparent might stir and, in a low, raspy voice, begin to tell an old tale that they heard from their own grandparent. It might be a story from the Bible of David and Goliath, or of Daniel in the lion's den, a tale of the small and the faithful triumphing over the great and the powerful. Or it might be a much older story, a folk tale that predates the arrival of the church, a story of cunning foxes, of mischievous sprites who live in the forest, of a great sleeping giant who is said to have formed the hills of the landscape. These stories are not just entertainment. They are the community's library, its school, its collective memory. They teach the children the difference between right and wrong, the importance of courage and cleverness, the dangers of pride and greed. They explain the world, they reinforce the bonds of the family, and they pass the culture from one generation to the next. As the fire burns lower, the embers glow with a deep, pulsing red. The shadows in the corners of the hut deepen. The faces of the family, illuminated from below, are masks of orange light and dark shadow. The world has been reduced to this single, primal scene, a small group of human beings huddled together around a fire, finding warmth, safety, and connection in the face of a cold, dark, and dangerous world. It is an image as old as humanity itself. Let the warmth of this ancient hearth seep into your own bones. Feel the deep sense of safety and belonging that comes from being part of this small, close circle. Hear the low murmur of the storyteller's voice, the soft whir of the spindle, the gentle crackle of the fire. Let the flickering, hypnotic glow of the embers quiet your thoughts. The wind can howl outside, the darkness can press in, but here, in this small circle of light, all is well. You are safe. You are warm. You are at peace. Part 5. The first shape of a new world. The market day. After a long period of contraction, of a world shrunk down to the size of a single village, we begin to see the first tentative signs of reconnection. Let us travel to a place where these fragile new connections are being forged. It is a designated spot, perhaps a crossroads or a field on the edge of a slightly larger settlement, where on one day of the week, people from all the surrounding villages gather. This is market day. The air is filled with a low, humming energy, a buzz of human activity that has been absent from our journey so far. It is not the chaotic roar of a Roman city, but it is a sound of life, of commerce, of a world slowly beginning to open up again. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of people are here, a rare gathering of strangers and neighbors. The market is not a collection of permanent shops. It is a temporary pop-up affair. People lay out their goods on rough woolen blankets on the ground, or on the back of a wooden cart. The stalls are simple, the offerings humble, but for the isolated villagers it is a place of incredible variety and excitement. We see a farmer and his wife who have walked for hours, leading a mule laden with sacks. They have had a good harvest, and they are here to sell their surplus barley. Next to them, a woman from a village known for its sheep has a pile of rough, homespun woolen cloth for sale. A man from a forest settlement has brought beeswax, honey, and a stack of animal pelts, fox, rabbit, and squirrel. These are the basic commodities traded mostly through barter. The farmer might trade a sack of his barley for a roll of the woman's cloth, a long and careful negotiation taking place, each party arguing the value of their own goods. There is some currency in circulation, small, crudely minted silver pennies, but it is scarce and barter is the most common form of exchange. But there are other, more specialized goods for sale as well. A skilled blacksmith has set up a temporary forge, his hammer ringing on his anvil as he repairs a tool or puts a new edge on a knife. His own wares, axe heads, nails, iron buckles, are laid out for inspection. His work is vital, and he is a respected figure. A salter, one of the long-distance merchants we have met before, has a stall with his precious cargo of salt, the most sought-after commodity at the market. He is a link to the wider world, and he will trade his salt for goods he can sell elsewhere, slowly stitching the fragmented local economies back together. The market is more than just a place of trade. It is the primary social event of the week. It is a place to see new faces, to exchange gossip, to hear news from other valleys. People gather in small groups, catching up on news of births, deaths, and marriages. Young people from different villages have a rare chance to meet, their glances shyly meeting over a stall of cheeses. There is an element of entertainment as well. A travelling juggler might be performing in a corner, drawing a small crowd of delighted children. A wandering friar might stand on a tree stump, delivering a fiery sermon to anyone who will listen. It is a place of noise, of smells, of livestock, of cooking food, of unwashed bodies, and of life. The market is also a place where the Lord's power is made visible. His reeve is here, moving through the crowd, collecting a small tax from each vendor for the right to sell their goods on the Lord's land. A rough court might be in session, with the lord or his representative settling disputes, an argument over a land boundary, a case of a stolen pig, dispensing a swift and simple form of justice. This small, bustling market is a seed. From these humble beginnings, a new world of commerce will grow. Over time, the most successful market locations will attract permanent settlers. A blacksmith will build a permanent forge. An inn will be built to house travelling merchants. A larger, more permanent church will be constructed. Slowly, painstakingly, over centuries, these market crossroads will grow into the towns and cities of the medieval world. But for now, it is a simple, transient affair. As the sun begins to set, the vendors pack up their unsold goods. The people begin the long walk home to their own villages, their mules laden with their new purchases. The field empties, leaving behind only trampled grass and the faint smell of the day's activity. Let the gentle, bustling energy of the market day bring a sense of hopeful activity to your mind. It is the sound of a world slowly reawakening, of people reaching out to one another again. It is a fragile web of trade and community being rewoven, thread by thread. Let the quiet hum of this nascent world be a soothing sound, a promise of a new dawn after a long, dark night. The stone church, in the heart of the village, a transformation is taking place. The small, dark, timber and thatch church that has served the community for generations is being replaced. A new structure is rising in its place, a building of a scale, a permanence and a beauty that the village has never seen before. A stone church is being built. The project is the vision of the local lord, or perhaps of a powerful, wealthy monastery. It is an act of immense piety, a gift to God meant to ensure the salvation of the patron's soul. But it is also a powerful statement of wealth and authority, a permanent monument to their power, visible for miles around. The construction is a massive undertaking that can last for years, even decades. It involves the entire community. The local peasants are required to contribute their labor as part of their feudal obligations. They quarry the stone from a nearby hillside, a back-breaking task of cutting and hauling massive, rough-hewn blocks. They dig the deep foundations. They mix the mortar, a slow, laborious process. But the key figures are the skilled craftsmen, the master masons. These are not local men. They are itinerant professionals who travel from one great building project to the next, carrying their precious knowledge with them. They are the keepers of the secrets of geometry, of engineering, of how to build an arch that will not collapse, a vault that can soar towards heaven. Let us watch them at their work. The master mason stands, directing the chaos, a long wooden measuring rod in his hand. He is the architect, the engineer, and the foreman, all in one. He communicates with his workers through a series of hand signals and curt commands. Under his watchful eye, the rough blocks of stone are shaped and smoothed by other masons, the chip, chip, chip of their hammers and chisels, a constant, rhythmic sound. Slowly, the walls begin to rise. A complex web of wooden scaffolding surrounds the growing structure. Teams of men use ropes and pulleys powered by a great wooden treadmill wheel turned by men walking inside it to hoist the heavy stones into place. It is dangerous, difficult work. The new style of architecture is a revelation. The old buildings were low, dark, and earthbound. This new church is designed to evoke a sense of awe, to draw the eyes and the spirit upwards. It features thick, powerful walls and rounded arches, the signature of the Romanesque style. The windows are small and narrow, for the walls must support the immense weight of the stone roof, but the light that filters through them seems special, holy. Inside, the space is unlike anything the villagers have ever experienced. The high, vaulted stone ceiling creates a sense of immense space and grandeur. The sound of a single voice is amplified, echoing through the nave. It is a space designed to make the individual feel small and humble in the presence of God. As the structure nears completion, other craftsmen arrive. Woodcarvers create intricate designs on the choir stalls and the heavy wooden doors. A blacksmith forges ornate iron hinges and locks, and if the patron is wealthy, a painter might be hired to cover the interior walls with vibrant frescoes. These paintings are the Bible of the illiterate. They depict scenes from the life of Christ, the Last Judgment with its terrifying images of hell and its serene promise of heaven, and the lives of the saints. The colours are bold, the figures simple and direct. For the peasant who kneels in this church, these images are not just art, they are a direct window into the sacred mysteries of their faith. When the church is finally finished, its consecration is the greatest celebration the region has ever seen. The bishop himself might come to perform the ceremony. The building stands as a powerful symbol of the growing power and confidence of the Christian world. Its solid, Stone permanence is a defiant statement against the fragile, transient nature of life in this age. It is built to last for 1,000 years. It is a piece of heaven on earth. Let your mind rest in the cool, echoing silence of this new stone church. See the shafts of dusty light filtering through the high, narrow windows. Feel the profound sense of peace and permanence that the thick stone walls provide. Hear the faint, imaginary echo of the monk's chant. This is a place of sanctuary, of awe, and of a deep, unshakable faith carved in stone. It is a promise of stability in an unstable world, a symbol of a new age of confidence being born. Let the profound, quiet strength of this sacred space bring a deep and lasting peace to your own spirit. The warrior's training. As society becomes more settled and organized, so too does the art of warfare. The chaotic brawl of the early Dark Ages, fought by farmers with axes, is slowly giving way to a more disciplined, professional, and deadly form of combat. In the bailey of a wooden castle, or in a cleared field beside the Lord's Hall, a new generation of warriors is being forged. Let us watch the training. Here, a group of young men, the sons of the Lord's vassals and retainers, are being drilled from dawn until dusk. Their childhood of play with wooden swords is over. Now they are learning the grim business of how to kill and how to survive. They begin their training as boys, serving as pages in the Lord's household, learning manners and discipline. In their early teens, they become squires, assigned to a specific knight. They are responsible for caring for their knight's armor, his weapons, and his priceless warhorse. They follow him into battle, staying in the rear, ready to bring him a fresh spear, or to help him if he is unhorsed. This is their apprenticeship. They learn by watching, by serving, by absorbing the culture of the warrior class. But they also undergo a brutal physical training. We see them now stripped to their waists, their young bodies already hard with muscle. They practice with heavy, blunt-ended swords, learning the basic cuts and parries. The clash of steel on steel rings through the air. The work is exhausting, their arms burning with fatigue, but their instructor, a grizzled, scar-faced veteran, shows them no mercy. A moment's inattention is punished with a sharp word or a painful blow from the flat of his blade. In a real battle, a moment's inattention means death. They practice with the other weapons of their trade, the long, heavy spear designed to be couched under the arm and driven with the full force of a charging horse. The kite-shaped shield, learning how to use it to deflect a blow, how to form a solid shield wall with their comrades. Perhaps the most important part of their training is horsemanship. The knight of this emerging medieval world is a heavy cavalryman, a human shock weapon. The young squires spend countless hours in the saddle, learning to control their powerful, spirited horses with their knees and their body weight, leaving their hands free for their shield and weapon. They practice charging at a quintain, a rotating target on a post, trying to strike it squarely with their lance without being knocked from the saddle by the swinging counterweight. This training is not just about physical skill, it is about building a mindset. It is about discipline, about unquestioning obedience to their lord, and about a deep-seated bond with the other warriors in their unit. They learn to fight not as individuals, but as a team. They learn the meaning of honor, of courage, and of the complex code of conduct that is beginning to evolve into what will later be known as chivalry. When a squire is deemed ready, usually in his late teens or early 20s, he will be made a knight. The ceremony is a solemn one. He spends the night before in a vigil of prayer in the castle chapel. In the morning, he is dressed in his armor, and he kneels before his lord. The lord takes a sword and taps him lightly on each shoulder, the act of dubbing, and speaks the words, "Arise, Sir Knight." He is presented with his own sword and a pair of golden spurs. the symbols of his new status. He is now a member of a warrior elite, a class set apart from the peasants who work the fields. His life will be one of paradox. He is a Christian sworn to protect the weak and uphold justice, but he is also a professional killer, his livelihood dependent on his skill in violence. This is the new, fragile order that is taking root, an order based not on Roman law, but on the point of a sword and the strength of a warrior's oath. Let your mind rest on the rhythmic, repetitive sounds of the training ground, the clash of swords, the thud of hooves, the shouted commands of the instructor. There is a powerful, ordered energy here. This is the chaos of violence being shaped and disciplined, being turned into a tool for the creation of a new kind of stability. Let the focus and the discipline of these young warriors bring a sense of order to your own thoughts, a feeling of strength and control as you prepare for a peaceful and restorative rest. The chronicler's pen. Let us return one last time to the quiet stone scriptorium of the monastery. In the still, dusty air, an elderly monk sits at his writing desk. He is not copying an ancient text. He is engaged in a different, and in some ways, a more vital task. He is a chronicler. With his quill pen, he is writing the history of his own time, preserving the names and the deeds of his world against the great, encroaching silence of forgetting. His work is a simple one. It is a year-by-year account of the noteworthy events that have come to his attention. His sources are few. He listens to the stories of the travelling merchants who sometimes shelter at the monastery. He speaks with the retainers of the local lord when they come to pray at the church. He corresponds through messengers with monks in other monasteries. From these small, scattered fragments of information, he pieces together a picture of the world. Let us look over his shoulder at the vellum page he is working on. The Latin script is neat and clear. The entries are brief, to the point, and imbued with his own monastic worldview. In the year of our Lord 793, he might write, the pagans from the north came and ravaged the Church of God at Lindisfarne, slaughtering the priests and carrying away the holy vessels. It was a great sign and a portent. In this year, another entry might read, there was a great famine in the lands of the Franks and many perished. The winter was unusually harsh. Also in this year, our Lord, Count Fulk, gave to our monastery the lands at Beaumont for the good of his soul. The chronicle is a strange mixture of the momentous and the mundane. A great battle that changes the course of a kingdom is recorded in a single sentence, followed by a note about a hailstorm that destroyed the monastery's vineyard. The birth of a prince, the death of an abbot, the appearance of a comet in the night sky, all are recorded with the same sober, factual tone. To us, his history might seem biased and incomplete. He sees the world through the lens of his faith. Events are interpreted as signs of God's pleasure or his wrath. The lives of kings and bishops are recorded in detail, while the lives of the common people, the vast majority of the population, are almost entirely ignored, mentioned only when they suffer from a famine or a plague. And yet without this monk, and others like him, we would know almost nothing about this period. The great histories of the Roman world are gone. The common people are illiterate. Oral tradition is unreliable, fading with each generation. This humble, anonymous monk, scratching away with his pen in a cold stone room, is the only bridge of memory spanning the dark gulf of the centuries. He is fighting a desperate battle against oblivion. He does not think of himself as a historian in our sense of the word. He is simply making a record, fulfilling a duty to his monastery and to God. He believes that history is the story of God's plan for humanity unfolding on earth, and that it is his sacred task to bear witness to it. The work is slow. The light from the narrow window is fading. Soon, The bell will ring for vespers, the evening prayer. He will carefully blot the ink on his last entry, cap his inkwell, and put away his quill. He will leave the chronicle on his desk, ready for him to continue tomorrow, or for another monk to take up after he is gone. The book is the work of many hands, a collective effort spanning generations, a single, continuous thread of memory. Let your mind rest in the profound scholarly silence of the scriptorium. Hear the soft, rhythmic scratch of the pen, the only sound in the room. It is the sound of a world being saved from being forgotten. It is an act of deep faith, of quiet devotion, and of a profound hope that the future will want to know about the past. Let the peaceful, focused dedication of the chronicler calm your mind. All the noise and chaos of the world is being distilled into these few, quiet, ordered lines of text. Let that sense of order of a story being carefully preserved bring a deep and lasting peace to your soul. The dawn beyond darkness. And so, our long journey through the dark ages comes to a close. We have walked the silent, grassy plazas of a dead empire. We have huddled for warmth in the smoky huts of peasants. We have felt the fear of the raider Ades threat and the solemn power of a sacred relic. We have seen a world that was, in many ways, smaller, harder, and more fearful than our own. But to call this age merely dark is to miss the subtle light that was always present. It was not an age of utter collapse, but of a long, slow, and painful transformation. It was a time of endings, certainly, but it was also a time of new beginnings. The seeds of the world that was to come, the world of the Middle Ages, were being sown in the hard soil of these centuries. Let us stand on a hill at the very end of our journey and look out over the landscape we have travelled. The sun is rising and the morning mist is burning off the valleys. We can see the faint but definite shapes of a new world emerging from the shadows of the old. We see the stone church, its tower, a solid, reassuring presence on the horizon, its bell calling the community to a shared faith that provides order and meaning. We see the wooden castle of the local lord on its hill, a symbol of a new, decentralized kind of power and protection, however flawed and violent it may be. We see the patchwork of fields around the village, more extensive and better cultivated than before, a sign of slow agricultural improvements that will eventually support a larger population. The deep, menacing forest is still there, but it is being pushed back, inch by inch, by the farmer's axe and plough. The abandoned Roman road is still a ruin, but the winding dirt track beside it is wider now, more travelled, as the connections between the new market towns grow stronger. In the quiet halls of the monastery, the chronicler's pen has not stopped. The fragile chain of knowledge has not been broken. The slow, patient work of copying and learning continues, preserving the legacy of the past for a future that will be better equipped to understand it. The world is still a hard and dangerous place. Famine, plague, and war will remain constant companions for centuries to come. But there is a new sense of identity emerging, a new confidence. The disparate tribes of the early Dark Ages are beginning to coalesce into the first, faint shapes of the nations of modern Europe. A shared Christian culture, a complex web of feudal loyalties, and a slowly reviving network of trade are creating a new kind of civilization, one that is uniquely European. The Dark Ages were not a void between two brighter periods of history. They were the crucible, they were the long, cold winter during which the Roman world died, and the medieval world was gestated. It was a time of immense loss, but also of incredible resilience. It was the age that laid the foundations, stone by heavy stone, for the world that was to follow. The dawn that is breaking now is not a sudden, brilliant sunrise. It is a slow, gradual lightening of the sky. The deepest shadows are receding, the shapes of the world are becoming clearer. The long, dark night is ending, a new day is beginning. Let this final image of a quiet, misty dawn fill you with a sense of peace and hope. The hardest times have passed. A new world is being born, full of its own struggles, certainly, but also full of a new vitality and a new promise. The silence of the ruins is giving way to the sounds of building, of commerce, and of prayer. Allow the profound peace of this new morning to settle over you. The long night is over. The darkness has faded. All is quiet. All is well. And now you can rest.